L'chaim, Rabbi Kesselman.
Rabbi Wolf, it's a great honor to be here with you.
Yasher Koyach. Same as well. Me and Rabbi Kesselman were neighbors, but we don't usually share the mic together. So this is exciting. L'chaim lebracha. Amen. Join the discussion. New project.
Please.
So it's really interesting because, in over here, when Baruch Hashem, I have this list to teach the Bar Malchus quite a lot, and I give a weekly share in Hebrew on these sikhs, so you kind of get the flow of all the weeks coming one after another. There is a Achad Asar wave that suddenly takes over right at this point. It started already earlier. The Rebbe already in Parshas Ve'era starts already kind of getting very excited about the fact that the 11th month is coming, that Achad Asar is coming. And then these three sikhs, Beshalach, Yisroi, and then Chav Bei Shvat. There are three sikhs devoted explicitly to the power of number 11. And the Rebbe is like seeing like the entire, like everything, all of Yiddishkeit and all of the purpose and all of the kavanah and the tachlis and everything is leading to the Geulah of number 11.
And then you're talking about B'chol Yivarach Yisrael.
Yes.
That's when the Rebbe said that Yud Aleph Shvat is higher than Yud Shvat because it's the first day in the Nesius of the Sidereinu, the first full day, in the Nesius of the Sidereinu. And
the Hara, the Rebbe says it over here too. The Rebbe is talking about, it's very interesting in the Hara towards the end of it. He's talking about one of the interesting, beautiful things about the Sikh is he talks about that Yud Shvat comes out on a Wednesday, and Wednesday is Nitlu HaMa'oros, Shnei HaMa'oros HaGedolim, the two big Ma'oros. And the Rebbe says to understand what's the progression of what happened from Yud to Yud Aleph. And the Rebbe says, Shinui Bahanasi. Very, very interesting lashon there. Shinui Bahanasi. You have it over here. Order 137. Yashleima haremez benegei lahem shechayamim. Yud v'yud al shvat. Right? Order 137. Right?
Yud v'yud al shvat. Oh, wow.
Hakshurim im inyan anasiyas. Shinui Bahanasi. Because the Rebbe is speaking about our three things. There is the mitzvah of Minui Melech, there is the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, and there is Beis HaMikdash. These are the three things that Yidden are going to have to do when they come into Eretz Yisrael. The first thing is Minui Melech.
So maybe we're going too fast. Should we start from the beginning?
Yeah, we should start from the beginning.
Yeah?
But what's really, but what's really is exciting over here is that the Rebbe is like going gung ho with number 11.
It's all about Yud Aleph.
Yud Aleph. It's all about Yud Aleph.
Okay, so explain it from the beginning. Yad Hashem HaTov Alech. So what's
Yud Aleph? Yud Aleph.
What's unique? What's
Yud Aleph? Yud Aleph. The Rebbe is characterizing this generation as the energy of Yud Aleph, and the Rebbe is saying Yud Aleph is the Geulah of Atzmas. That's what Yud Aleph is. Now the system. Like there is the system. The point that the whole sikha of all these sikhs, consecutive sikhs, is there is a system. The perfection of the system is number 10. It's a spheres, a saramaris, even a seres adibris. Even in holiness, if you set up the structure is everything is 10. But then there is the etzem. There is the ebish derale. And that's Moshiach. That's the Geulah.
So usually we refer to the etzem as chad.
Yes.
Right? As the echot.
Yes.
It's not usually thought of as 11. It's usually thought of as 1.
Yeah, that's right.
The reason why it's Yud Aleph is because it's the Aleph.
Nimshach.
The Aleph into the Esar.
Nimshach ba'olam. It's in the world, permeating every element in existence. That's number 11.
Is that different to echot?
No, it's the same. It's the idea of echot versus yachid.
Right.
Yeah, that's the
concept of Yod.
That's Aleph permeating the Ches and the Dalet. It's the conclusion. It's the purpose. It's the realization of the Eibishter's dream of Nesava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liyas Leidira B'Tachtainim, a multiplicital world, a world full of the many different chalkos that there is in the world, and in there is Shaira the Eibishter Ale. That's the
etzem in the Giloyim.
Yes. In the Geulah.
In the Geulah, in all the Geulah, in Almas Elyonim, in Almas Tachtonim, in the Shleimus.
Yes.
Till it comes all the way Lamata into Dir B'Tachtonim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's Yud Aleph.
That's Yud Aleph. And that's
what I found very striking. I'll tell you something which people when they asked me when I came to Lubavitch, like what excited me. And what excited me a lot was that Yiddishkeit used to be to me a once upon a time story. Like it happened a long time ago. It happened in the time of the Nevi'im. It happened in the time and we're like nochschleppers. We're holding on to something that once was. And when I came to Lubavitch at the time, I finally, for the first time, got the experience that it's currently happening now. Like it's like there is something that we're seeing the process unfolding. We're part of the story, and we're actually hitting like I came to Lubavitch at Mentes. So I came right into the Nun Aleph Nun Beis. That was my first experience. So like the energy. That energy of Moshiach, the energy that we're at, it's going to happen right now. So this sikha particularly takes what we call the biblical story, the whole story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and the Rebbe kind of transports every element of it to the current right now. Like there is the concept of Yud Aleph, and then there is Mem. There's 40 years, and because the sikha evolves around the V'lo Nochem Elokim Derech Eretz Pelishtim. That the Eibishter, we could have gone a shortcut, and instead the Eibishter took them the long way. Shortcut would have been an 11-day, 11 Masais. You would have gone right into Eretz Yisrael. Instead, Asiva Ma'ashem Derech HaMidbar, V'leinochem Elokem Derech HaMidbar, for 40 years.
So those 40 years are seen as similar to the 10 that you were saying.
So what the Rebbe says is
40 years are seen as like
the structure.
The structure. The Mem Beis Masois.
Same idea. So it's the Mem and the Mem Beis Masois, which the Rebbe kind of intertwines over here, representing the Kalim of the Makablam, the world, the fixing of the world, the fixing of the darkest elements of the world. It's creation, it's the world. Mem is Be'ikah, the way the Rebbe puts it is no, that's the secondary. That's another Indian. That's Mem Beis. But Mem, the Rebbe sees Be'ikar as Ben Abarim Lebina. Bina is the full structure of the Keli of the Makabel. Moshe Rabbeinu was in Shemayim for 40 days. The Yom Lashana, it takes 40 days to develop a baby. The Icarus development.
This is all we can call it. Kalim. We can call it Seder Shtalshin.
Yes. The Welt.
Call it. Right, but the Shleimus of
Shleimus of the Welt.
And even the Shleimus of Torah.
Yes, yes.
Including the Shleimus of Torah.
Seres HaDibros.
Right. But instead, Eibishter takes them, instead of the V'lo Nochem Elokim through the Yud Aleph.
He could have taken them directly through the Aleph.
Right.
That's right.
But he doesn't. They go through the Midbar, and they're there for 40 years, because this is the Avodah of bringing the Achad Asar into the Asar.
Yes? Yes, that's it.
That's the Sikha.
That's
one of the main Nekudas.
And you got the symbiosis, which is really like special in the Maimer, and it kind of like reflects almost like the first is Kabbalas and Asiyas Sikha, where the Rebbe is saying that the Rebbe on the one hand is saying a Maimer Basel Legani, and is pointing everything on the Tzaddik, on the Nasi, who's the 7th generation, who's going to be Moirid the Shechina. He's kind of highlighting the spotlight with them and Hastutanda. You're talking about the 7th Tzaddik, who's kind of on the line like Moshe Rabbeinu. He's at that point. And yet at the same time, the Rebbe turns around and the Rebbe says, I'm not doing it myself. You're all going to do the work. And the Rebbe spends with us 40 years doing the work. So it's almost like the Rebbe is saying in this Sikha that, just like the Eibishter, I could have done it all, Yud Shvat, Tavshin Yud Aleph. In other words, the nuclear energy that was released when the Rebbe said Basi Legani on Yud Aleph Shvat, on Yom Yud Aleph of the Rebbe makes a very clear distinction between the Friediger Rebbe. Now the Friediger Rebbe, everything, it's in a Sikh of Tashin Nun. I saw it in a few places. The Rebbe says it in Parshas Ve'er over here as well. The Friediger Rebbe is kind of represents the shleimus of the perfection of the world to its highest darga, Asiri Yer Kodesh, but still within the context of 10. That's why he says somewhere that both names of the Friediger Rebbe start with a Yud, and that he's nostalgic and Tafshin Yud, and that he was born in Tafresh, Mem, and he became a Rebbe and a perfect 40 years later, when he was 40 years old. And he had 3 sections of Nesius, each one was 10 years. So the Rebbe really like takes number 10 and formulates it with the Frierdiker Rebbe on and he passed away on Yom Yud, Taka Chodesh Yud Aleph, but the 10th day. And the Rebbe then says, but that's like an introduction to the Hemshech HaNesius, where we're going to hit the notes of Yud Aleph. And what does the Rebbe explain as Yud Aleph? Ufaratz. It's like Yud Aleph has no borders. It has no boundaries. It's Beli Gvul. It's Ein Sof. It's the Rebbe Shtar. It's beyond the system. And that's Yud Aleph. So the Nekuda that what I found so interesting and so compelling in the Sikha is that Rebbe takes the story and interprets the amazing story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. How there as well it was coming to be Matan Torah, which the pnimius of Matan Torah is the Hizgalus of Atzmas Mamish. Although it didn't manifest so much then. The Rebbe speaks that there's 2 stages in Matan Torah. There's like 2 stages in Matan Torah. There is the Matan Torah that we had. There was the Chitzonius of Matan Torah that happened when we went out of Mitzrayim, and there's the Shleimus of Matan Torah that's going to happen for Moshiach. And Torah Chadasha, which that's the Aleph, that's the Chadasar, that's number 11, that's the transcendental element, Pnimius Torah, Tamei Torah. And so by Moshe Rabbeinu, when we went out of Mitzrayim, it started off with the Koyach Yud Aleph. The Eibishter's intention was always to reveal his very self, but he so much wants it to be with us. In Caleb. So instead he takes us around the 40-year journey so that we can do the Avodah. And to me, if I can say something really interesting, I think is interesting to myself, is that the Rebbe is interpreting the Sikha is so interesting because it's at the conclusion of 40 years. And the Rebbe is talking about Yud Shvat, which releases the power of number 11, but yet we spent 40 years digesting it. We spent 40 years doing it together. The Rebbe is kind of telling the Chassidim, we did it together. But it seems like, to me, that this is also a achana for the next 30 years that we've been there. Because the Rebbe is kind of saying, so now that I'm revealing to you this Yud Aleph over here, and really we're done and we're ready, but Pa'il Mamish, we see that we need to process. We need to process. We need to process the Geluyim that we were getting in Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, at these incredible revelations, and we're processing it. We're not Chas v'Shalom off the mark. There is like this Chas v'Shalom, we don't need 40 years, but it's more than enough. But the idea that there has to be an integration. If I can say one more thing, I feel like I'm talking too much, is that I feel that when the Rebbe said these sichos, they were coming so quickly and so strongly and so powerfully that we didn't really have time to sit back and to like really take in what he's saying. And now, because we're able to, get over the trauma, a little bit of Gimel Tammuz, and sit and go back and see what it's saying, we can unpack it and connect to it in a much more pnimistic way. Just my thoughts.
We're going to reword a little bit what you're saying.
Yes.
These sichos, the Tafshin and Aleph and Tafshin and Beis sichos, when I learned them, I try to learn them a little bit, because I was there for some of them, it takes me back very much to not just the time when the Rebbe said them, but very much mindset. And it was, at the time, the Moshiach reality that the Rebbe was creating, generating. I don't want to say pushing, but really like putting us all into this Elokus B'Pshitus kind of Moshiach reality. I remember as a child, I won't make this about my memories, but you started. I remember as a child sitting at these fabrings. I remember the Rebbe saying the words, we're sitting at the table with the Sharabar, with the Leviasim, with the Yainam Shamar. I remember these things. I remember the Rebbe saying, and it was kind of like we would sit, I was sitting either on my grandfather's lap or, I don't know, next to Rabbi Monshein, and we were like, it was like you didn't really expect to walk out of. People say this, it's a line, but it resonates with me. You couldn't really accept that the Farbrengen was over and you'd walk outside and there'd be cars driving by and trees. There was a cognitive dissonance. Forgive my, forgive the expression. The Rebbe really did, it's true. The Rebbe did really like immerse us in it. And at this time, there was, sichas, I think, 3 or 4 times a week. The Rebbe almost always, I think, gave out dollars after the sichas, at least, for a couple of minutes. Unbelievable, we can call them, like a real elikus b'pshitas gush of the Rebbe. And these sichas, about Achad Asar, the Chadla, the Chushban, the Rebbe was all part of that. The Rebbe was immersing us in a very Moshiach-like reality. At the time, it was very overwhelming and very powerful. And then after that, I mean, this is we're talking Shvat. So this is
a month and a half before
Chav
Zayin. That's right. These were the last.
Yeah. And I think when Chav Zayin Adar came, and after that, 2 years later, now the Chav Zayin Adar then Gimel Tammuz, it took us. We have to now wrestle. We have to grapple with this. How to bring all of this into Kalim. And maybe that's one of the points of the Sikha, that there's an Achad Asar, and it's very overwhelming and very powerful. And then there's time after that to bring it into the Kalim.
And yet, during the time of that we're processing, during the 40 years, the Rebbe says, it's not like there's 40 years. There was Achad Asar Yom and there's 40 years. The Achad Asar Yom is the Achad Asar Yom derech harseir hoylidvam memshana. It's not that there is, you went 40 years, okay, now go process. It's the Achad Asar Yom itself is carries us in the 40 years. So we're marinating in the Achad Asar Yom. We're marinating in the Geluyim that the Rebbe gave us, the Geulah of Atzmos that the Rebbe gave us already in Un Aleph and Un Beis, which is the reality, which is the emes on a deeper, godlier state of existence. It's mamish. We're living with the Shai Rabbi and the Levias and the Melech HaMashiach in front of us all the time. But open up.
In the words of the Sikha, there is this experience as it comes milamai l'lamata.
Yes.
And then there is the same experience, the way it is. I'm going to use your word, processed milamata l'mayla.
Yeah.
So I don't know that at the time anybody would have seen it that way. But looking back, I think these gifts and these Giluyim are here for us to live with. The concept of Achad Asar also is, definitely connected with a person being able to go out of their hakbalas, which I don't remember the favorite words used in the Sikha. But it's
we're a generation that was given the koiches to do literally the impossible. It's the chibur of Atzmos and the world to do the impossible and not lose ourselves in it, not to become like we stop being who we are and what we are. We can kind of like be who we are with our personalities, with everything about us, with the quirkiness of our whatever we are, and yet be in a state of total yichud with Atzmos Mamish, it's such an incredible impossibility, and yet this is what the Sikha is saying.
And yet this is it.
Man.
We should be those.
And I would recommend everybody learn the Sikha.
Yeah.
It's such a chayas. It's such a lift.